Boris Johnson also relies on the control of the Western media, including the UK media, including the BBC, and their control is very often done by omission, leaving things out. And when they do appear to do something reasonably fairly, they always put one little adjective or something which alters the whole impression of the article. Now look, if you just take Iraq, you take 500,000 children were killed by the result of sanctions. I mean, sanctions are no joke, they're war. And that was prior to 2003. And then you have a million or 2 million in 2003, in which we were involved. And then you have Daesh and ISIL sweeping through the country, burning people, putting them in cages and setting them alight. The things they've done to the women. And Trump and his puppet, Boris Johnson. Why is Johnson particularly doing this? Because you see, with Brexit now, the UK has got to crawl to Trump. And that is the reality. So these lies, or these monstrous lies on a huge scale, are being parroted both by Trump and by Boris Johnson. And they are both Nazi propagandists. Because behind this there is also a racialism. That attack by Trump, going to get rid of all the cultural identities, etc. Behind there is a racialism and a cultural superiority, and people like Boris Johnson, my Prime Minister, they're exactly the same. And they have no integrity. We have to remember that the atomic agreement was the best piece of diplomacy that has been in my lifetime. And yet, Trump, at the behest of Israel, Brexit, and my country, is leaders, a craven, spineless, pusillanimous lot, and now crawling to Trump because of Brexit. They really don't have any alternative. But that agreement now is going down the tubes. Europe has shown it has no integrity, no sense of decency, and instead of standing up to Trump, did this because the Europeans, including my country, were supine. They realized that Trump could get away with it and do it. Okay, I'll stop there for the moment, but there's much more to say, particularly about the missiles and things.
No, yeah, Mr. Saif, if I can get just to finish this off on the British Prime Minister who's throwing these allegations around in the air without any evidence. When he says that General Soleimani, when he alleges that he has the blood of British troops on his hands, that was his quote. Was it not the Iraqis that fought the US invasion? Was it not the Iraqis that rose up against the US invasion? No country likes to be occupied at the end of the day. When you see British and American troops walking on your streets, walking among your people in uniform with semi-automatic weapons and automatic weapons and machinery and tanks on the streets. No one likes to be occupied at the end of the day. The Iraqis rose up. What link has it got to do with General Soleimani? Why don't they ever provide us any evidence for that?
Why they don't provide the truth of what Tony Blair said at the time, that the Iraqis have weapons, rockets can reach London in 45 minutes. He lied to them at the British Parliament, and when he dragged the country to war, illegal war, on fabricated lies led by the Americans. He knew himself he was fabricating these lies, and he knew himself at the time what he getting himself into, Tony Blair. So not to forget all of that, all the lies, and the British knew about that, and he's free to wreak havoc even in the internal plotting against Jeremy Corbyn, to making sure he will lose, helping and accusing him of being anti-Semitic, and helping a man who stood for peace of being weak, cannot push the nuclear button, and. So we're dealing with monsters like Tony Blair, who have, as Mr. Shakespeare mentioned, have 2.5 million lives on his hands as well, and the Americans' hands. So this is part of the British occupation forces. There is a lot of images, a lot of things on the internet. They can see the Iraqis, but when they used to arrest Iraqis, they used to pee on them, the British soldiers, in the barracks in Basra. A lot of stories of rape, a lot of stories of torture and killing. Forget what the Americans did in Abu Ghraib jail. And so the Iraqis stood and rose and kicked them out. And now they want to blame Mr. General Soleimani of having blood on his hands. The blood of the British soldiers on Tony Blair's hands. This is the establishment who lied to the people and who dragged the country in a war against innocent civilians in there, and wrecked their country and bombed it and pushed it back to the Stone Ages, as George Bush promised to do, and they did. And today they come to us with this. The British, this Boris, he's as Mr. Shakespeare said, he's a liar. He lied during the election. He insulted the Muslim community in here, describing Muslim women wearing hijab as letterbox, and he's even wouldn't look at disabled or sick people in the streets. Or I mean, this man is from an aristocrat who hates even the poor or in his own country, or even the middle class. He just wants to make sure the rich stay in control of this country. And what he's doing today by being the stooge for the United States of America, as was an issue during the British election, the National Health Service, it's being negotiated between his own government and the Trump administration. They want to take it over, the Trump administration. So the British cannot just buy generic medicines cheap. They want to buy the American citizens from their pharmaceuticals, which is hundreds of times more expensive. So he wants to put the country, British economy, and the British, a lot of health service, maybe education, all of that, at the mercy of the multinationals, American multinationals. And he, because when he, at the end of this month, leave the EU, he wants to renegotiate a new agreement of a free trade with the European Union, and is already was talking from 2 years back with the Americans about securing a favorable trade deal with the United States of America. And so he is paying his dues to them. Whatever you want, they will do. But saying that, in general, if it's Boris or anybody else in the British, ruling the British government, since the Second World War and since the Marshall Plan of rescuing the economies of West Europe, rebuilding West Europe, the United States de facto occupation of West Europe. So most of these countries, they have the state policy is linked to the United States of America. Whatever the United States of America wants, they will do. They will pass it to the parliament. They don't pass it to the parliament. Then strategically, the United States of America in control of a lot of assets and policies within the UK. So Boris, at the end of the day, is going along this way, but and further, showing more support because he wants the United States of America to help him and to rescue him after implementing the Brexit.
Okay, so let me thank our guests. I'm afraid we have run out of time. I had much more to discuss, but unfortunately time has taken the better of us. Rodney Shakspeare, author and commentator, joining us out of London, and Saif Shaith, author and Middle East affairs expert. Thank you very much indeed for your contribution, your analysis and your insight. Dear viewers, don't go anywhere.